When Rome cast out its final king and declared itself a republic in 509 BC, it fiercely guarded its newfound liberty against the looming specter of tyranny. Yet paradoxically, the Republic would repeatedly rely on granting absolute power to a single individual in times of existential danger. Thus was born the office of dictator, an extraordinary magistrate given complete authority for precisely 6 months, entrusted to rescue Rome from impending disaster. The first of these remarkable men emerged barely a decade after the Republic's birth. In 501 BC, Rome trembled under threats from external enemies and internal dissent that stirred fears of monarchy's return. Amid this uncertainty, the Senate chose Titus Larcius as Rome's first dictator. Lartius swiftly mobilized Rome's defenses, asserting authority without hesitation. Yet his greatest legacy was not war, but peace. By relinquishing power voluntarily, after the danger subsided, Larcius established the crucial precedent that the dictator's greatest strength lay in his willingness to step down, reinforcing Rome's deep-seated dread of permanent autocracy. But the quintessential Roman dictator, the enduring symbol of civic virtue and republican ideals, was unquestionably Lucius Quinctius Cincinnatus. By 458 BC, Rome faced catastrophe. Its legions were trapped by the fierce Aequi tribe at Mount Algidus. In this darkest hour, envoys from the Senate found Cincinnatus plowing his humble fields. The story, cherished by Romans for centuries, tells how he immediately abandoned his simple life to don the mantle of dictator. Without pause, he assembled a force of citizens, marched overnight, and executed a brilliant rescue at dawn, utterly crushing the Aequi. After only 16 days in supreme command, Cincinnatus returned to his farm, indifferent to glory or power. This remarkable act defined him as the epitome of republican humility and sacrifice, embodying the Romans' ideal that dictatorship was a duty, never a privilege. Yet dictatorship also had a harsher edge, one that could blur the lines of justice in moments of panic. In 439 BC, Rome once again turned to Cincinnatus, but this time the threat arose from within. During a famine, a wealthy plebeian named Fabius Maximus distributed grain, gaining alarming popularity and sparking fears that he aspired to kingship. Swiftly appointed dictator, Cincinnatus acted decisively and ruthlessly. Without trial, Maximus was struck down in Rome's streets. Though effective, this event exposed a troubling side of the dictatorship. Absolute authority could lead to measures that bordered on tyranny. It left future generations a complex legacy. Was dictatorship Rome's guardian or its potential oppressor? By the 4th century BC, the dictatorship evolved beyond military necessity into an engine of profound political change. Marcus Junius Camillus, known as Rome's second founder, personified this shift. Appointed dictator an extraordinary 5 times, Camillus famously rescued Rome from invading Gauls in 390 BC, earning eternal gratitude. Yet his most impactful dictatorship occurred in 367 BC amid severe civil unrest between Rome's patricians and plebeians. Recognizing the destructive potential of this class struggle, Camillus championed the passage of the Licinian Sextian laws, groundbreaking legislation allowing plebeians access to Rome's highest offices. By mediating between Rome's warring classes, Camillus demonstrated how dictatorship, wielded wisely, could unify and fortify the Republic. His actions reflected the deepening understanding that Rome's strength lay not only in military power, but also in social cohesion and political balance. A generation later, Quintus Publilius Philo, dictator in 339 BC during the crucial Latin War, similarly grasped the potential of his office to reshape Roman society. After defeating Rome's enemies decisively, Publilius pushed through the Publilian laws, dramatically expanding the influence of plebeian assemblies and permanently altering Rome's political landscape. Publilius showed how dictators could use their extraordinary powers to accelerate societal progress, dismantle archaic privileges, and establish a more inclusive republic. His reforms endured, laying foundations that would later support Rome's vast empire. But crisis remained the dictator's primary calling, and no threat tested the republic more severely than the arrival of Hannibal of Carthage in the late 3rd century BC. After the devastating Roman defeat at Lake Trasimene in 217 BC, panic seized Rome. Desperately needing a steady hand, the Romans appointed Quintus Fabius Maximus Vericosa as dictator. Rejecting traditional Roman aggression, Fabius developed an unprecedented strategy of attrition. Avoiding direct combat with Hannibal, he pursued a war of patience, harassing the Carthaginians' supply lines, bleeding their resources, and frustrating their desire for battle. Initially scorned as cowardly by his countrymen, Fabius's wisdom became evident as Hannibal's strength diminished. The Fabian strategy became legendary, a timeless lesson in patience and strategic prudence. Through his dictatorship, Fabius not only preserved Rome from immediate destruction, but also profoundly reshaped military thought, forever demonstrating that wisdom and caution could surpass brute force. Yet Rome's most desperate hour still lay ahead. In 216 BC, after the catastrophic defeat at Cannae, where nearly 80,000 Romans fell in a single day, Rome stood on the brink of collapse. In this moment of existential dread, the Romans turned to Marcus Junius Pera, a dictator who understood that extraordinary circumstances demanded extraordinary measures. To raise new armies swiftly, Pera scandalized conservative Rome by arming slaves and criminals, promising them freedom and redemption if they defended the Republic. His drastic, unprecedented actions illustrated dictatorship at its most revolutionary, a power that could suspend even Rome's sacred traditions if it meant survival. Though deeply unsettling, Pera's pragmatism achieved the intended effect. Rome survived, rallied, and eventually triumphed. His legacy taught Rome that when survival itself was threatened, adaptability was the highest virtue. Yet dictatorship was never without peril. By the late Republic, the office had evolved from an emergency mechanism into a potent political weapon. The definitive transformation occurred in 82 BC, when Rome appointed Lucius Cornelius Sulla dictator, not for 6 months, but indefinitely, with the sweeping mandate to rewrite the Republic's very constitution. A ruthless general and shrewd politician, Sulla unleashed a bloody purge, the infamous proscriptions, executing and exiling hundreds of his political enemies. Yet beneath the cruelty lay an ideological vision. He sought to restore Rome's aristocratic order, weakening populist tribunes and reinforcing senatorial dominance. In a stunning conclusion, after completing his radical reforms, Sulla voluntarily resigned and retired, a decision that shocked Rome. His dictatorship demonstrated, for better and worse, that absolute power could reshape entire political systems, but at a chilling human cost. It was a grim warning that the dictatorship, Rome's ultimate safety measure, could also serve as its executioner. Thus, Through centuries, these select Roman dictators, Lartius, Cincinnatus, Camillus, Publilius, Fabius, Pera, and Sulla, each responded uniquely to the demands of their age. They wielded supreme power with differing motives: selfless duty, ruthless necessity, visionary reform, cautious strategy, and ideological zeal. Through their actions, dictatorship evolved from a rare emergency office into a complex, multifaceted tool capable of profound influence on Roman society and politics. Rome's dictators shaped her history, preserved her survival, forged her unity, and at times inflicted profound suffering. Their lives embody the Republic's greatest triumphs and deepest contradictions, reminders that the human impulse toward absolute power can both save a civilization and threaten its foundations. Ultimately, these dictators, whether heroes or villains, remain profound studies of crisis leadership, vividly illustrating the perilous balance between power, virtue, necessity, and ambition. Their legacy endures as a timeless reflection on the dangerous allure and critical necessity of supreme authority, cautioning us that the very power that safeguards liberty can, if unchecked, also destroy it.